Part 185. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1841. Huo Qubing and I didn't speak. I don't know how long the two of us were silent. Huo Qubing suddenly asked, "How did Huaxiu die?" I told Huo Qubing exactly what happened in the underworld. After Huo Qubing listened, the coldness in his eyes slowly dissipated. That's really something she can do. Although I am married to her, I know that she does not love me. She loves you more than me. As for why you married me, I think it was because of that rescue, plus the guilt you felt towards me. Huo Qubing slowly stood up and came to me. Lu Su, since Huaxiu has sacrificed her life to fulfill your wish, I hope you will not disappoint her expectations of you. No matter how difficult your road is, I hope you can continue to walk, survive, and accomplish what you want to do. Huaxiu's sacrifice is meaningful. I nodded and replied, "Don't worry, I won't let Huaxiu's sacrifice be in vain." Huo Qubing patted my shoulder and didn't say anything more about it, but I could feel that he was very sad. As you just said, the battle you and I agreed upon before may really have to be postponed for a while until I can free these dead souls from their obsessions and fulfill the agreement with you. I looked at Huo Qubing and asked, "You have been here for a while. What are the obsessions of these dead souls?" Huo Qubing was silent for a moment and then answered, "The hearts of Geng Geng and loyal souls are as bright as a pill despite going through thousands of calamities. Their obsession is nothing more than to be loyal to the emperor and serve the country. Before they died, they did not see with their own eyes the victory of the war, the stability of the country, and the well-being of their families. After death, these thoughts in their hearts will turn into obsessions, causing them to lose their reason and self and become ghosts wandering around the world. Peace is determined by heroes, but there are no heroes to enjoy peace. This is probably the regret of all generals and soldiers." I continued to ask, "Is there any way to make them let go of their obsessions?" Huo Qubing replied, "Every dead soul here lives in a different time, in a different dynasty, and has different thoughts in his heart. If we help them resolve their obsessions one by one, it will take too long and be too troublesome." Huo Qubing came to the cave, looked not far away and said, "There is a city in the center of this world. I discovered that that city is guarded by all the dead souls. If anyone comes close, they will definitely attack in groups." Huo Qubing turned around and said, "So, they place their obsession on that city." I was slightly startled and asked, "You mean to capture that city? To crush their obsession? To make them return to normal?" Huo Qubing nodded and said, "I do think so, but I am a little worried. That city is the place they guard. If we capture it, the obsession in their hearts will be shattered. What will they become? I don't know what it looks like." I fell into a long silence after listening to Huo Qubing's words. "This way, I don't know if it's feasible. But obsession is like a sweet dream. Once the dream is broken, you will wake up. If we capture the city, it's not impossible to make those dead souls wake up and recognize the reality." I stood up and continued to explain, "There are countless dead souls and countless obsessions here, but as you just said, no matter what obsessions they have in their hearts, they have all turned into going into battle to kill the enemy and protect the city. Then we will break the city. Of course they can't be wandering around in a daze." End of this chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1842. Huo Qubing looked at me with a confused face. I sighed slightly and said, "To put it simply, no matter what the obsession of these dead souls was when they were alive, they are now protecting the city. As long as we attack the city, their obsession will be broken, that is, will wake up. When they wake up, you can talk to them, understand their obsessions, and then make plans." This explanation made Huo Qubing suddenly realize. "That's it, then this method is indeed feasible. However, our current location is too far away from that city. It is difficult to reach them. We can't hurt them yet. Plus we don't have mounts, which makes it even harder to reach them. What Huo Qubing said he was worried about was indeed a difficult problem. But there is no better way at the moment, so we can only force our way through. Wait, I seem to have overlooked one thing. That is my Nine Eyes Heaven Realm. I don't know what the scope of my Nine Eyes Heaven Realm is. However, with Juyan Tianyu here, this matter is not that difficult to do. I said to Huo Qubing, there is no good solution to this artifact. We can only force our way in. Just be prepared. Later, the two of us will fight our way through countless dead souls. Okay, but let me warn you in advance, these dead souls are everywhere, they will appear anywhere. Some undead souls have very weak attack power, but some undead souls are very strong. I have encountered several undead souls from ancient times before. Even if I can kill them, they will be resurrected. I waved my hand and said, the arrow has to be fired when it is on the string. Let's set off later. Huo Qubing agreed. Afterwards, Huo Qubing and I made some repairs in the cave and then left the cave. When I came outside, I asked, what's the terrain like here? Huo Qubing replied, there are mountains, plains, and hills. All the terrain outside is available here, and that city is located in the center of the world. If we start from here, we can climb a few mountains later, and then crossing a big river. After crossing the river, there is an endless plain, and the city is on the plain. After listening to Huo Qubing's story, the corner of my mouth twitched slightly. Is this, so far? Huo Qubing replied calmly, otherwise, what else did I do when I told you what I just told you? It would be nice to have a horse in this situation. If I had known earlier, I would have brought Xiao He here. Xiao He is the golden crow. If he transforms into his true form here, he will probably easily send Huo Qubing and I to that city. However, Xiao He seems to be unable to enter the sky coffin. At this time, I thought of Kaidian again. If Cai Dai was with me, I wouldn't be in such difficulty. Come on, we still have a long way to go. I nodded, and then led the way to the city under Huo Qubing's guidance. There were very few living dead besieging us along the way. But they clung to me and Huo Qubing like dogskin plaster. Although they cannot cause harm to us, it is very annoying to suddenly appear and restrict our movements. So Huo Qubing and I had to free our hands to deal with these living dead every time we walked a certain distance. Soon, Huo Qubing and I climbed a mountain. Then came the second one, the third one, the fourth one. Huo Qubing and I climbed 8 mountains before we saw the big river that Huo Qubing mentioned. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1843. The big river in front of me is like a giant dragon winding through with rolling water. Both sides of the river are dry and yellow, and there is no life at all, as sad and scary as the Nahi Bridge. As we get closer and closer to the city, the number of dead souls increases. In the past, Huo Qubing and I were able to deal with these dead souls with just a raise of our hands, but now we can't. Huo Qubing and I have to put in some effort to destroy their bodies. But after the body was destroyed, they popped up again after a while. Huo Qubing and I cannot completely eliminate it. Once it is completely eliminated, the 8th level of the sky coffin will be affected. At that time, the 8th level of anxiety will be a devastating blow to Huo Qubing and me. Huo Qubing pointed to the river and said, we will cross the river later and walk a short distance to our destination. I nodded and said, let's go quickly. If we drag it on, there will be more and more living dead, and we will be unable to move forward by then. Huo Qubing is right. These living dead are everywhere, appearing out of thin air from all directions. Sometimes when I was walking, I felt my foot being scratched. However, their disappearance and appearance are not without rules. When these living dead are about to appear, a weapon will condense out of thin air. As long as weapons appear, these living dead will also appear. Huoqiubing and I quickened our pace. By the time Huoqiubing and I arrived at the river, the number of living dead around us was as many as 800, if not 1,000. At this time, I suddenly found weapons one after another suddenly appearing on the river. The number of weapons can only be described as horrific. I made a rough count and found that there were tens of thousands of living dead at the bottom of the river. Moreover, this number is still increasing. How to cross the bridge? I asked Huoqiubing. Huoqiubing replied, just swim over. The corners of my eyes twitched slightly and I said, send it to me? Are you kidding me? Let's not talk about the fact that there are so many living dead in the river. How can I swim now that I have lost my left arm? Huoqiubing glanced at me faintly and asked, then do you have any good ideas? My mind was racing and I said to Huoqiubing, yes. Just wait a moment. I need the formula with one hand and muttered something in my mouth. I want to use the Nine Eyes Heaven domain. I don't know if the range of the Nine Eyes Heaven territory can reach the width of the river. This river is very wide, and it is the kind of existence that can't be seen at a glance. There is no other good way now. If I were to swim by brute strength alone, I would be surrounded by the living dead within a short time. And I can't easily cast spells in the water. So now I can only take a gamble. Bet on whether the Nine Eyes Heavenly domain can reach the other side of the river. Even if I can't reach it, I've still traveled a little distance. As I activated the Nine Eyes Heaven realm, the black barrier spread out around me with me as the center. In the blink of an eye, the black barrier disappeared from the river. Huoqiubing looked at me in surprise and asked, when did your Taoism become so high? I smiled and said, everyone will grow up. Now you should know how confident I am, right? Huoqiubing said nothing. Because the living dead have washed up from the river. Looking around, there are dense crowds of people everywhere. The scene in front of me gave me a sense of déjà vu as locusts passing through. I grabbed Huoqiubing's arm, and with a thought, he disappeared directly from the spot. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1844. By the time Huoqiubing and I appeared again, we had already crossed the river. I looked back and saw that the river between them had become a blurry straight line. I stared blankly at the river in the distance. I never expected that the Nine Eyes Heaven realm that I am currently displaying, has such a large range. I don't know how wide the river is. I only know that I am 2,000 to 3,000 meters away from the river. In other words, the diameter of the Nine Eyes Sky domain has exceeded 2,000 to 3,000 meters. Not only was I dumbfounded, but Huoqiubing was also dumbfounded. Lu Su, you. Huoqiubing looked at me and didn't know what to say. I smiled bitterly and said, I didn't expect that the scope of the Nine Eyes Heaven realm was so big. If I had known it was so big, I would have used it long ago, and I wouldn't have had so many mistakes. As soon as I finished speaking, countless weapons suddenly appeared on the ground around me. These weapons are like spikes, appearing out of thin air, and they are so densely packed that it is impossible to strike. I calmed down, put away the Nine Eyes Heaven realm, and used it again. I asked Huoqiubing, where is that city? Huoqiubing pointed in a direction and said, over there. I took Huoqiubing's hand and disappeared directly. In an instant, Huoqiubing and I appeared at the limit of the Nine Eyes Heavenly domain. I looked around at the plains as far as the eye could see. The plain was desolate, yellow sand was everywhere, and the howling wind was ringing in my ears. Such a harsh environment made me frown. In addition, there are countless weapons scattered on the ground all around. Some of these weapons were inserted into the ground, some fell to the ground, and some were a small pile of weapons accumulated into a hill. There is no way to measure the number of weapons, which means that the number of living dead here is close to infinite. Moreover, the shadow of a city appeared not far away. Because the distance was too far, there was no way to see clearly what the city looked like. Huo Qubing said to me, "The distance is not enough. If we forcefully push through this distance, it will waste a lot of time and energy. If we have horses, we can rush through it." I said solemnly, "If I were to use Nine Eyes Heaven Realm, I would probably only be able to reach a distance of 1,000 meters from that city. If you want to successfully cut off the obsession of these living dead, you must break the city gate in front of them. In other words, after I use the Nine Eyes Heaven Realm again, you and I will have to fight these living dead." Huo Qubing nodded and said, "You can use it with confidence. However, I want to tell you in advance that the closer you are to the city, the longer these living dead will exist. The longer the time, the deeper the Taoism." I smiled and asked, "What? Are you scared? Afraid?" "How could I be afraid?" Huo Qubing replied. "Since you're not afraid, let's take a walk." After that, I used Nine Eyes Heavenly Realm again and took Huo Qubing and disappeared. As I expected, we appeared 1,000 meters away from the ancient city this time. From this distance, I could clearly see what the ancient name looked like. There is a faint mist lingering in the ancient city, which makes the ancient city look particularly mysterious and solemn. In addition, the ancient city wall is 70 or 80 meters high, and the city gates are tightly closed, making it look extremely heavy. Just as I was looking at the ancient city, Huo Qubing suddenly drew his sword. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1845. The long sword was unsheathed and made a crisp clang sound. I looked at Huo Qubing and saw Huo Qubing looking around with a cold expression and alert eyes. Just when I was about to speak, strong winds blew up all around me and blew the yellow sand from the ground flying all over the sky. My line of sight was also blocked. I half squinted my eyes and looked around cautiously. At this moment, I saw figures one after another slowly emerging from the yellow sand in the sky. The strong wind lasted for dozens of seconds before stopping. When the strong wind stopped, the yellow sand flying in the air gradually fell to the ground. My sight returned again, and the sight in front of me made me frown into a frown. In just 10 seconds, Huo Qubing and I were surrounded by countless living dead. These living dead are wearing armor and have cold expressions, with almost no signs of decay on their bodies. Moreover, these guys exude a very strong yin qi. Judging from the strong level of yin qi, their Taoism is no less than that of the 9 ghost kings I met in the underworld. The yin qi of several living dead can only be described as terrifying. If I have to compare, I estimate that each of them is as good as Yama from the 10th hall of the underworld. The sky coffin is indeed a sky coffin. The monster imprisoned here is indeed very difficult to deal with. Suddenly, the countless living dead around them all turned their heads. They slowly raised their heads, and a penetrating red light suddenly appeared in their eyes. This red light seemed to be dyed with blood, very bloody and terrifying. In their eyes, I saw expressions of indifference, cruelty, and malice. Huo Qubing suddenly said to me, "Lu Su, don't die later." I chuckled and said, "Don't underestimate me." As soon as I finished speaking, the living dead around me launched an attack on Huo Qubing and me. They are extremely fast. It can be described as teleportation. I just blinked and they rushed in front of me. I didn't use Jingxiao. Because I know that Jingxiao cannot cause any harm to these guys. Although Jingxiao was made from a centuries-old peachwood sword and Su Tianxuan's blood, the power of Jingxiao was somewhat insufficient in front of the enemies I faced in the later period. Therefore, I can only take out the Zuxian sword and fight with these living dead. These living dead are indeed much more difficult to deal with than the living dead I encountered at the beginning. and I couldn't destroy the weapons in their hands during the battle. Once their weapons are destroyed, their souls will fly away with the weapons. Weapons are their obsession. No matter what era the soldiers are, weapons are another life to them. I think this is also the reason why these living dead place their obsession in weapons. Now I only have my right hand left, and I can't handle it alone. I concentrated my expression and activated the other 3 divine swords. I held the immortal killing sword in my hand, and then let the immortal killing sword, immortal absolute sword, and immortal trapping sword protect my body. In this way, any living dead who want to get close to me will be killed by these 3 swords. Of course, just hurting the bodies of the living dead cannot make them die, because as long as their obsession is still there, they can be resurrected indefinitely. Huoqiubing said before that the number of souls and living dead on the 8th floor of the sky coffin is simply too many. What I saw before was just the tip of the iceberg. The obsessions of countless dead souls and living dead are integrated into the seal, which means they are integrated into this world. This is also the reason why the living dead will appear from various places on the 8th floor of the sky coffin. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1846. These living dead have high moral standards and are resurrected quickly. Often I just destroy their bodies, even if they turn into ashes, these living dead will condense their bodies in an instant. This is not the way to go. Huoqiubing and I will not be able to advance a single step, let alone break through the city gate. Huoqiubing was just like me, he couldn't move, I had to figure out a way to solve the predicament at hand. My brain was running rapidly and I immediately thought of a countermeasure. Huoqiubing and I were aiming for the city gate, not these living dead. I just need to trap these living dead, and then Huoqiubing and I can set off naturally. I looked around and the number of living dead could only be described as horrific. You've probably seen all the Lost movies. What I'm going through now is no less than the zombie movie Zombie Rising. At least the zombies in zombie movies can be killed, but I can't kill these living dead yet. I shouted to Huoqiubing, "You buy me some time, I will use the magic circle to control them." Huoqiubing asked me, "Can't you just use Nine Eyes Heaven Realm?" I shook my head and replied, "No, although I can teleport to the city gate with Nine Eyes Heaven Realm, there are too many living dead nearby. I have no place to stay at all. Even if I teleport, I won't be able to teleport just after I appear. I will be besieged by these living dead, and I will have no chance to break through the city gate." Huoqiubing nodded and shouted to me, "Okay, I will buy you some time, but you have to hurry up, there are more powerful living dead approaching us." Good. I agreed and then sat cross-legged on the ground. Huoqiubing also came to me. He protected me firmly, and any living dead who tried to get close to me would be killed by Huoqiubing. I have to say that Huoqiubing is still very strong. When faced with the living dead who were highly skilled, numerous, and constantly resurrected, there was no trace of panic on his face. Instead, he was able to deal with them calmly. Now that my left hand is disabled, I can only perform the exercises with one hand. The speed of kneading with one hand cannot keep up with the speed of kneading with two hands. Moreover, the binding technique I want to perform is large scale. Large-scale sealing techniques mean that a lot of profound energy is consumed, and preparations also take a long time. I took a deep breath and started to chant the mantra. Huoqiubing protected us to the death, which made me feel at ease a lot. Time passed by minute by second. About a minute later, my whole body suddenly emitted a dazzling golden light. I opened my eyes suddenly, and a magic circle slowly unfolded from under me. The magic circle spread towards the surroundings at a slow speed. When it spread to a certain extent, I let out a soft roar. The next second, the magic circle suddenly burst out with a dazzling golden light. This beam of golden light made the entire world extremely bright. I stood up, held my sword finger with one hand, and let out a loud roar. Bundle! As soon as I finished speaking, dazzling golden light flashed under the feet of countless living dead. The golden light condensed into golden ropes, and then bound these living dead tightly like pythons. The living dead who were so fierce just now are now tied into knots. The living dead struggled desperately, and I quickly mobilized the dragon energy in my body to maintain the operation of the magic circle. The magic circle took shape, and Huoqiubing also got a breather. I looked in the direction of the city gate and said to Huoqiubing, I can't control these living dead for too long. Now I will use my methods to attack the city gate. You follow me and see that I am in danger. Just help me. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1847. Okay, I get it. Huoqiubing replied. I must open a gap in the siege of the living dead. Because these living dead were trapped in place and unable to move, they were just human walls. If I don't break the wall, I won't be able to move. I took a deep breath, kneaded the secret with one hand, and mobilized the dragon energy in my body. The dragon energy spread out from my body, and then gathered into a golden shadow of a blue dragon in the air. 80% of the dragon energy in my body is controlling the living dead. So I only have 20% dragon energy left. I can only condense these two dragon energy into a few golden dragons. But I didn't gather too many golden dragons because I still had some energy left to deal with what happened next. I stood in the shadow of the golden dragon, took a deep breath, and then quickly attacked in the direction of the city gate. The moment I set off, the golden dragon let out a roar that resounded throughout the world. After the dragon's roar disappeared, the shadow of the golden dragon followed me and ran rampant among the living dead. The golden dragon's shadow directly dispersed the living dead in front of me. Some living dead were even directly swallowed by the dragon's energy and turned into a pile of ashes. However, the living dead are freed from the shackles of the golden rope when they turn into ashes, which means that they can condense their physical bodies again. I have no time now to care how many of the living dead have escaped from the shackles of the golden rope. I only have one thought now: hurry up to the city gate and break it down. The distance of 1,000 meters can be said to be far or close. Because the surrounding living dead were controlled, I quickly arrived at the city gate. My expression condensed, and I suddenly raised the immortal killing sword in my hand. Then he slashed hard at the city gate. Cut it down with my sword. The shadow of the golden dragon protecting me also roared out. The phantom of the golden dragon attacks the city gate with lightning speed. Just when the golden dragon's shadow was about to break through the city gate, several figures suddenly appeared in front of the city gate. Immediately afterwards, I felt a powerful yin qi coming over me. This powerful yin qi directly shattered the golden dragon's shadow. I stopped where I was, staring blankly at the figures standing in front of the city gate. I saw those few people with their bare upper bodies and their lower bodies made of trousers made of animal skins. They did not hold any weapons in their hands, but the yin qi emanating from their bodies was as vast as the sea and as towering as a mountain. I frowned. Could it be that these are the souls of ancient souls? The ancient period was the period of the Yellow Emperor. Just when I was shocked, dozens more figures came towards me. I looked closely and saw that these figures were surprisingly dressed in the same way. They were bare-chested, wearing pants made of animal skins, and had strong yin energy. I counted a total of 49 such living dead. Huoqiubing came to my side and said in a solemn tone, "They should be 49 of Qiyu's 81 brothers in ancient times." I was slightly startled, looked at Huoqiubing, and asked, "Are you kidding? Do you think I'm joking? I just doubt it." As a monarch, Qiyu naturally has brave and capable soldiers under his command, so it's not surprising that he appears here. Chi was born in the middle and lower reaches of the Yellow River in ancient times, with a history of more than 5,000 years. According to legend, Chi had a bronze head and an iron forehead, 8 arms and 8 toes, a human body and ox hooves, 4 eyes and 6 hands. Chi was also the leader of the Li tribe in ancient times. In addition, Chi had 81 brothers, all of whom had extraordinary abilities and invincible bravery. Each had his own territory and was also the leader of each tribe. His 81 brothers are Duanqiu, Qingang, Lumu, Dai Xian. End of this chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Qing Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1848. Each of Chiu's 81 brothers has his own name, and there are records. I only know the first few, but I don't know the rest. I stared hard at the 49 living dead in front of me. They dress in the same style as the savages. Well, it can't be said that they are the same as the savages. After all, the savages used leaves and other materials to cover their private parts, but the 49 living dead in front of them had used animal skins to make clothes, and there were still traces of sewing on the clothes. It doesn't matter whether these 49 living dead are Chiu's brothers. What I have to do now is break down the city gate. Since you want to break the city gate, you must find a way to defeat the 49 living dead in front of you. The dragon energy in my body is controlling the remaining living dead. I don't know if I can still subdue them now. I looked at Huo Qubing and said, I'll stop them and leave the matter of breaking the city gate to you. Can you do it? Huo Qubing asked. I nodded and said, it's okay. I'll contain them later, so you can go ahead without worries. Huo Qubing agreed. I held the Zuxian sword in my hand and rushed towards the 49 living dead in front of me without any hesitation. The moment I started to move, these 49 living dead also reacted. Several of the living dead came to me at extremely fast speeds. I suddenly raised the Zuxian sword in my hand and slashed at them. The moment the Zuxian sword fell, a powerful sword energy burst out of the air. Those living dead people didn't dodge and ran directly into them. The sword energy struck them firmly, but the result shocked me extremely. The sword energy released by the Zuxian sword did not cut off these living dead, but only left wounds on their bodies. It was not Zuxian sword that caused this situation, but me. Because I dispersed the dragon energy in my body, I was unable to exert the full strength of the Zuxian sword. If I break up the magic circle now, then those controlled living dead will resume their actions. Once those guys resume action, Huo Qubing and I will be attacked from both sides. Therefore, I can only rely on the remaining dragon energy in my body to fight Zhou Xian. I fought with these 49 living dead, and suddenly found that with my current strength, I was unable to attract these 49 living dead. There were only a dozen living dead who besieged me, and the rest stood at the city gate to tightly protect the city gate. I must attract all these 49 living dead. Thinking of this, I rushed towards the city gate. Sure enough, the moment I rushed toward the city gate, 49 living dead attacked me. 49 living dead were attacking me from all directions. The yin energy emanating from their bodies was like mountains pressing down on me. My face hardened, and I suddenly took a step forward. A yin-yang Pisces diagram unfolded beneath my feet. The yin and yang Pisces diagram expanded rapidly, and then 2 carp, one black and one white, jumped up from the circle. Under the influence of my dragon energy, the 2 carps turned into 2 black dragons, one black and one white. I haven't used the yin-yang Pisces chart for a long time. The yin-yang Pisces diagram I have displayed now is many times more powerful than before. 2 dragons, one black and one white, attacked the 49 living dead. I don't know where the souls of these living dead are. The souls of the living dead that I encountered before turned into obsessions and attached themselves to the weapons. But these 49 people didn't even have weapons. Where would their souls be? End of chapter. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1849. I can now confirm that the bodies of these 49 living dead are so hard that not even the Xuxian sword can cause any harm to them. A strong body also means a strong soul. As long as I don't destroy their souls, it's naturally impossible for them to disappear. I looked at the 49 living dead who were fighting with the yin and yang dragons, and suddenly realized that their souls might not be attached anywhere, but in their bodies. I have no way to cause harm to the bodies of these living dead for the time being. So I can only point my finger at their souls. I cut the palm of my right hand and let the blood in my body flow out. Blood slowly flowed down my right hand. I slowly raised the palm of my right hand and manipulated the blood in the wound on my palm. The blood slowly floated up and gathered into blood-red threads in the air. The silk thread was extremely scarlet, exuding a strange blood light. I waved my hand casually, and countless bloody threads attacked the 49 living dead. The living dead who could not be harmed by the immortal killing sword before were now penetrated by countless bloody threads. Roar! The 49 living dead let out pitiful howls. I clenched my right hand into a fist, and the bloody thread shuttled through the body of the living dead at an extremely fast speed. In the blink of an eye, the living dead's body was already riddled with holes. I shouted to Huo Qiubing, now. Even if I didn't remind Huo Qiubing, he would have already left. Huo Qiubing dodged and struck towards the city gate at extremely fast speeds. Seeing Huo Qiubing's move, the 49 living dead attacked the city gate like crazy. My face hardened, and I once again increased the control level of the soul-stealing blood hand. While those red threads penetrated the living dead's body, they did not leave the living dead's body. Instead, they remain in the body of the living dead like lines in clothing. As I increased my control, these threads restricted the movement of the living dead. They seemed to be frozen in place, unable to move and could only roar unwillingly. I am now using all my strength to restrain these 49 living dead. At this moment, I felt like a huge stone was pressing on my chest. This feeling made me break out in cold sweat and make me breathless. Just when Huo Qiubing was about to arrive in front of the city gate, a living dead suddenly burst out with a roar that resounded throughout the world. Immediately afterwards, I felt a sweetness in my throat, and a mouthful of blood spurted out. The next second, the living dead man broke free from the shackles of the soul-stealing bloody hand and attacked Huo Qiubing at an extremely fast speed. This living dead person is the existence with the strongest yin energy and the highest Taoism here. I expected him to break free from me. Now I have no experience in subduing this living dead, so I can only place all my hopes on Huo Qiubing. Huo Qiubing focused all his attention on cutting through the city gate and did not notice the living dead at all. I spoke out loud as a reminder. Careful! My words just came out. The living dead man had already arrived in front of Huo Qiubing. Then, the living dead man raised his fist as big as a sandbag and hit Huo Qiubing. At the same time, I was unable to restrain the remaining 48 living dead. These 48 living dead instantly broke free from their restraints and attacked Huo Qiubing like crazy. My face froze, and I screamed in my heart that it was not good. I wanted to move, but the backlash caused by the living dead's escape from the soul-stealing blood hand just now made my limbs weak. Just when I thought everything was over, a figure suddenly appeared in front of the city gate. End of chapter. Sky Coffin. Author, Ching Nian Wanbao. Chapter 1850. It's Zhao Mian. Zhao Mian kneaded the formula with his left hand and recited the thunder curse in his mouth. He kneaded the secrets and recited the incantations very quickly. In the blink of an eye, the method was completed. Zhao Mian didn't hesitate at all, and blasted towards the 49 living dead with one thunder technique. I looked at Zhao Mian's posture as if he was going to blow the souls of these 49 living dead to pieces. I quickly stopped him and said, "Don't destroy them." Zhao Mian's hand movements stagnated, and the power of the Thunder Jew weakened a bit. Zhao Mian pushed out with a palm, and the thunder and lightning as thick as a bucket were like a spider web and engulfed the 49 living dead. Boom! There were bursts of thunder in the air. Dazzling thunder instantly filled the entire world. When the thunder dissipated and the thunderous light retreated, the 49 living dead had been blown away by Zhao Mian and fell to the ground in a mess. Seeing this scene, I was secretly shocked. I didn't expect Zhao Mian's heart to be so cruel. He actually wanted to beat the living dead to pieces. However, Zhao Mian was not a kind person from beginning to end. It's just that I have been in contact with him a lot recently, and I subconsciously think that Zhao Mian is not that bad. But I overlooked that Zhao Mian was once a murderous person. Betrayal, trickery, cruelty, these words used to describe bad guys are not exaggerated when used on him. Zhao Mian's sudden appearance directly broke the deadlock at the scene. Huo Qubing took this opportunity to slash the city gate with his sword. Just hear a loud bang. The city gate was split into two, and the two wooden doors fell directly to the ground, raising dust all over the sky. The moment the city gate was broken, all the nearby living dead stopped struggling and froze in place. The numbness in their eyes slowly began to disappear and became clear. I breathed a long sigh of relief when I saw this scene. It seems that Huo Qubing and I made the right decision. I closed the magic circle and collapsed on the ground, breathing heavily. At this time, Zhao Mian came to me and said, "Lu Su, you can do it. You can control such a large number of living dead. Even I may not have such strength and means." I glanced at Zhao Mian and said nothing. Huo Qubing also came to me and said to me, "You can go into the city and take a rest, and leave the rest to me." I looked at Huo Qubing and asked, "What do you plan to do with these living dead?" Huo Qubing thought for a while and replied, "Now that they have regained their senses, I just need to tell them that the war is over and what they have been pursuing has come to an end. There is no need for them to stay here because of their obsessions." I nodded. As a general, Huo Qubing understands the hearts of generals and soldiers best. It would be appropriate to leave this matter to Huo Qubing. I struggled to stand up and said to Huo Qubing, "Then I'll leave this matter to you." Huo Qubing nodded. Later, Zhao Mian and I entered the city. The wind from the ancient city gently brushed my face, as if I had traveled through thousands of years. Every inch of land here seems to be full of spiritual energy, which makes people feel relaxed and happy. Every plant, every tree, every brick and tile is telling people the mystery of the ancient city. Zhao Mian and I found a house and moved in. I sat cross-legged on the wooden bed and began to restore the dragon energy in my body. Zhao Mian looked at me and said, "The matter here is over. You should know what to do next, right?" End of chapter.